So now we're going to get into the army. All right? So get your notes out. Get ready. This is exciting. And the title of the page, it's called The Lord of Hosts Army. I'm going to title the message Elijah's Army. All right, so let's just get right into it. Where we're going is Joel. And Joel, actually, let's look at the end of Joel chapter 2. It talks about, God pouring His Spirit out on all flesh. And he said He would show wonders in the heavens. And in the earth, blood, fire, pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned to darkness. The moon shall be turned to blood. So coming up in the first month, we'll have a solar eclipse on the third day, and then there's a blood moon, which is the third of the lunar tetrad, before the great and terrible day of the Lord. So all this is happening. This, in a sense, it's not the tribulation, in my opinion. It is the precursor to it, and it's a great and terrible day of the Lord. At the same time, verse 32, shall come to pass, whosoever will call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. So there will be a great outpouring of the Spirit, and many will be saved. But the message of where we're at now, where I believe the lunar tetrad and the solar eclipses and these things taking place now are to prepare the army. Okay? And so now what we're going to do, the army is described in Joel chapter 3 in very vivid detail. And you can just read that. That is the army. That is just the instruction of the army. Now what we're going to do is we're going to compare that army and the attributes and nature of that army to Elijah, because we'll be able to observe that many of the things that Elijah did are similar to what this army does. And let me say this as well, that this is the mystery of the spirit of Elijah. Now, it is the spirit of Elijah. It's not Elijah himself, but his influence in the spirit of what he does. So obviously it happens 5 times, guys. 5 times the spirit of Elijah. So the first time is Elijah himself, and then you have Elisha, and they said, is not the spirit of Elijah on Elisha? Then you have John the Baptist. Then you have this army, and then you have Elijah himself as one of the 2 witnesses. So I believe that the spirit of Elijah is going to come on a people, not just one person or one prophet leading into the terrible day of the Lord, but on a people, a multitude of people and a specific army. And I believe that the army detailed here will be a multitude of people acting in the spirit of Elijah. So that's very, very exciting. So let's look at our notes here, and also go through this and go through who we are as saints of the Most High God, and to represent God and our Father as a man of war. The Lord of Hosts is His name. God is a man of war, it says in Exodus 15:3 and Isaiah 42:13. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, mighty in battle. Psalm 24. He teaches my hands to war. Psalm 18:34 and 144 at verse 1. And we looked at this before, but the Lord came from Sinai, and He shined forth from Mount Paran. He came with 10,000s of His saints. He loved His people. All His saints are in His hand, and they sat down at His feet. The Lord, my God, will come, and all the saints with Him. That's in Zechariah 14:5. And I also want to quote to you Daniel 7:22 and 7:27. And I believe that this is already fulfilled. Jesus said Himself, from the days of John the Baptist to now, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So some of these things will be fulfilled, but there is a war taking place, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and they possess the kingdom. That is already happened. Okay? And the kingdom, and the whole kingdom and dominion under the whole heaven is given to the saints now. Okay? So, as an army, we are exacting out the glory and kingdom and dominion he's given to us. Okay? Now, there are many, many references to the attributes of this army. And you have this in your notes, but when you go to do this and be part of this army, you have to endure the things that life throws at you. That's why in 2 Timothy it says, endure hardness. No man goes into the war entangled with the affairs of this life. Why? That he may please him who chose him to be a soldier. So, you have to just lay things off to the side and go to war and count on the fact that you're in the war and then the government is going to take care of you. That's what you have to do, because the war is not just, fighting the enemy, it's fighting life. It's fighting the distractions. It's fighting temptations. It's fighting the things that, all the excuses that people make for not following God. But this is the time we're in, guys. Joel 2:11 talks about this shout and this sound. And this sound is going out right now, where it is the sound of the lion. It is the roar of the lion of the tribe of Judah. It is the roar of the lion as the Lord Jesus, our Yeshua, comes back the second time as the warrior. The sound is going out. And hopefully you are hearing that sound as the army and you're preparing. The Lord of hosts leads with a shout. This is his mighty army, and they follow his orders. The day of judgment the day of the judgment of the Lord is an awesome, terrible thing. Who can endure it? That is happening now. That is happening right now, people. Okay. Now, I just hope you hear this sound. I hope you hear that sound, without me having to do some kind of dramatic display or jump or, you can say things with a still small voice and hear the sound. Hear the roar of the lion. Hear the sound of the trumpet. Prepare for battle. Okay? Now, when we looked at the porters, remember Elijah said, the Lord before whom I stand. So we must know how to stand before God, how to present ourselves before God, stand before him, and present ourselves to get our orders. Okay? That's one thing I wanted to include here. Now, it describes this day. Now we're all these, I'm going to say a number, which is a verse, but all these verses are in Joel chapter 2. A day of thick darkness. And that word thick darkness is Arapel. And it says God dwells in thick darkness, in Arapel. Okay? And the same thing happened with Elijah. The sky became black with clouds. 1 Kings 18:45. And this will be a great and strong people. So again, this is the spirit of Elijah coming on a great and strong people. And a fire devours before them. This is verse 3. And Elijah called down fire from heaven. 2 Kings 1:12. They are set in battle array. We know about this in Ephesians 6. And so this battle array is also in Isaiah 59, 16 and 17, being prepared in battle. But it's also intercession. And so Elijah prayed, and he got on the ground in the fetal position with his head between his knees in 1 Kings 18:42, and he released the glory and the desire of God to restore the famine, and he did that through prayer. And so this army in battle array must do the same thing. In verse 7 and 9 of Joel 2, it says they go to and fro. So this is a people that will go to and fro in the Spirit, just like in Daniel 12:4. This is both in the spirit and in the body. And you must know how to run. You must know how to go. You must know how to be active. Elijah also outruns Ahab's chariot. 1 Kings 18:46. They climb. They go up. They ascend. They climb out of this world. They climb out of the things that are taking place that are distracting. They climb out of that and they ascend. And they constantly said of both Elijah and Elisha that we don't know where you're going to be. The Spirit is just going to take you and carry you places, and we don't even know where you're going to end up. That's what's going to happen to this army. And they march everyone in his ways, and they walk in his ways. And we remember that in Zechariah 3:7 that we walk in his ways. And they march everyone in his ways. And verse 7 says they will not break their ranks. The whole reason I'm going through all this detail of this army is so that you understand there's ranks and there's orders. And so these people know not to break rank. They know their place. They know their position. Okay? And it says they enter, in verse 9, they enter windows like a thief. And Elijah did the same thing. He told the king what was happening in his bedchamber. Well, how was he there? He was there in the Spirit, watching everything that was going on. No, nothing is hidden from God, and nothing is hidden from the Spirit of Elijah. Now, verse 8 says, this army won't thrust one another. It's very important that we understand that the sword that God has given us, we do not use it on each other. So we must walk in love. We must not allow our tongue to, yield your tongue, yield your sword against your brother. It's very important. We must walk in love. And they are to walk everyone in his path, in course. And again, that word path or course is the same word as the gate of the causeway of the going up in the west gate. So that's a path, that's a course. You must know your path, your course, your particular role, your instructions in the army. And this here is connected as a porter to the gate of the going up. Angels, they fought from heaven, and as the stars and these angels will also fight with this army hand in hand. So they're called courses or shifts. And the thing with the clock is that they are in time. So the calendar you have has the shifts. So the watches are shifts of the angelic that take place 8 times a day. So you have that. And they will keep my charge and keep my post. They'll fall upon the sword and they will not be wounded. All right? So even though this war, there's conflicts, and you might get hit with the sword, you won't be wounded. And what I believe that means is that they can't die. That this army and these people will be part of the first fruits that will ascend, and they will take on a glorified body in this dreadful time. And so the sword, that anything that will fall upon them, they will not be wounded. They'll just be like Jesus in his resurrected body. But also, Isaiah 1:20 says, they were devoured with the sword, for the mouth of the Lord is spoken. And so at the same time, this army can receive the sword of the Lord. So the Lord's word his tongue is sharp and two-edged sword. So they also will fall upon his sword. They'll fall upon his sword and his word that divides asunder the soul and spirit and the joints and marrow and intents of the heart. Okay, so they must know his sword as well. And not to be afraid of that sword, not to be afraid of its surgery of the heart. Okay? And then again, like we talked about before, there are horses and horsemen and chariots. You see that in verse 4. So many of you will even have things that you'll see. You'll see horses, you'll see chariots and different things. But these are all in preparation to this army. So you can see that the character and nature and attributes of this army is very similar to Elijah. And I believe that the spirit of Elijah will come upon a people, will come upon an army in the last days. And the witness of the stars and what's taking place is an alarm and a signal from God, from heaven, for this army to prepare. So hopefully you will prepare. Hopefully you will hear the sound of what I'm saying, and you'll see that God is going out with the sound and the shout and the trumpet, and you will prepare your life for battle, for the war. So I don't really know what to say, guys, to you, other than what I can share. You might wonder, how do I do this, whatever. I mean, just, you have to go after this with all your heart. And you have to endure hardness as a soldier. You have to endure the distractions, the things that are flying against you, pulling you in different directions in this world, so that you can be a soldier. So this whole series is to get you to this point where you see all these roles, you see all these different places of service, branches of service, how to be a priest. This is how to be a king, but you know, we want to sit in our throne and just bark out orders, but you also have to fight. And so David fought. And so it's very important that you know how to fight. You know how to fight in the Lord of Hosts army. You know how to fight with the angelic. That you know how to use your weapons. And that you know how to go against the enemy. Okay? So this concludes the army. I might have one other video to conclude the whole series, but I hope you see the severity and gravity of the words that I'm saying, and take them to heart, okay? That the whole series I've been giving you is a scroll from heaven, and it's a scroll to prepare a people, a remnant, to stand before God's throne, to serve Him, to love Him with all their hearts and worship, to stand at post and to fight. Okay, so that concludes this message, and again I'll have one more, and then I encourage you just not to listen to this once. Okay, I got it. Most of what I'm saying, you're probably only obtaining about 10%. So many things I'm just saying are going right over your head. So I encourage you to go back and listen to this whole series again. Okay. Just because of the times that we're entering, especially the upcoming months. So God bless you guys, and let me know if there are any questions or anything else that you have, okay?